Hey everybody, what's going on tonight? Um, we are here with Prince's movie magic madness. Prince, I believe your microphone is muted right now. There you go. You
Yeah.
should be good
Hey
now.
guys. Sorry guys. A little bit of tech issue we're having. I'm on my tablet, so it's really slow. But how you doing, Scalz?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, and I'm definitely excited for tonight's episode of Movie Madness. We got a great one coming up.
Who
This
are we discussing
episode
today?
is gonna. We will be discussing one of the greatest minds in animation and live action films. We are going to be talking about one of the best and one of my personal favorites. Mine and my wife, we've been a fan of this man since before we even knew who he was. We are talking about Tim Burton. And this episode, before we get started, I want to say this. This episode is dedicated to my wife, Holly. She worked her butt off on this. She put her all into this episode. So this is for her. This episode is dedicated to my beautiful, wonderful partner, Holly. I love you, baby.
And our thoughts
But
and prayers are with Holly as she goes through her struggles. Let her know that we
thank
do
you.
care.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure she should be jumping in to watch soon. But like I said earlier, tonight's episode is on one of the greatest minds, Tim Burton. And this guy has been a part of some of the greatest films, some of the greatest animation films. His stories have intrigued me and Holly for a very long time. We grew up throughout the 90s and watching films like the Batman, the first two Batman films, then movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, then then you go to live action with Sweeney Todd and Dark Shadows. This man has worked with some of the best people in Hollywood, and one of the biggest names that he works with that I'm gonna be talking about tonight is Johnny Depp. Going through the list of what he's worked with, Tim Burton is very fascinating. And with that said, we're gonna start the life of Tim Burton right now. Born Timothy Walter Burton in Burbank, California on August 25th, 1958. And I'm kind of glad we're doing this episode now because his birthday just recently passed. So happy birthday, Tim Burton. Yeah, buddy. He is the son of William and Jean Barton. As a preteen, Barton would make short films in his yard using crude stop animation techniques or shooting 8 millimeter film without sound. Now, when you watch these films without sound, it adds a unique style to it, and it's just very interesting knowing how someone can make a film without sound, without a dialogue or whatever they choose to make the film. So that's pretty cool. Here's a fact for him. The first fact of the night: the Island of Dr. Eagle was one of his oldest known juvenile films he made. He made it when he was 13 years old, which is very interesting. Burton was a student at Burbank High School, but he wasn't particularly a good student while in school. He was a quiet person and found pleasure in artwork, painting, drawing, and watching movies. Some of the stuff I'm into right here, so I've always been a fan of his work. Another great fact is his future work would be heavily influenced by Dr. Seuss and Roald Dahl, who wrote children's book The Gremlins, which was published in 1943. After graduating from high school, Burton attended the California Institute of Arts to study character animation. As a student, Burton made two short films, one titled Stalker the Celery Monster and King and Octopus. Now, going into his early career with the 80s, Stalker the Celery Monster got attention of Walt Disney Productions, which offered Burton an animator's apprenticeship. He worked as an animator, storyboard artist, graphic designer, art director, and concept artist on films such as the 1981 classic Fox and the Hound, Tron, which was another great movie, and The Black Cauldron from 1985. Sadly, his concept art never made it into the finished films. And when you have a mind like Tim Burton with the films that he's been able to give us, mainly with the stop animation like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, it makes you think of what those films would look like if those little pieces were installed in those films. Now, watching some of these films that I just named, they're awesome. But how much better would it have been with what he was able to make for these films? It makes you curious. It kind of stinks that we never got those finished products with his ending. While at Disney in 1982, he made his first short, Vincent, a 6-minute black and white stop motion film, which is based on a poem that Burton wrote. The poem depicts a young boy who fantasizes that he is Vincent Price. If you guys don't know who Vincent Price is, he played in House on Haunted Hill, which came out in 1959. If you haven't seen that film, go watch it, please. Um, Vincent provided the narration for the film, which is, I mean, that guy is one of the biggest names in movies of the past. And if you're curious on Vincent Price, check him out. He's really good. The film was shown at Chicago Film Festival and was shown in one LA cinema for 2 weeks. This was followed by Burton's first live-action production, Hansel and Gretel, an adaptation of the Brothers Grimm fairy tale for the Disney Channel. Fact: only being aired once in 1983 on Halloween, it was promptly shelved. Prints of the film are extremely rare to find, fueling rumors that the project did not exist.
So, what's your
But
thoughts
the
on
short now, I find it very interesting knowing that just 2 weeks the film was aired, and then making everybody believe that it really didn't exist. When you got when with 2 weeks, that's a lot of people watching a film. That is, and if that's not a lot of people watching a film, then the people that have watched it, they're talking about it. They're getting it out there in the news wave. And at that time, you really didn't have much except for your voice to talk about the film. So I mean, it's kind of weird to think that this would cause rumors of people believing that it didn't exist when 2 weeks there's got to be somebody that watched that film other than the people that had a part in it, whether it was directing, I mean, whether it was production, whether it was set design, whether it was the actors, somebody was there watching it.
that?
You know, you can't just make a film like that and nobody talk about it or know about it. Even back then, you still knew about what Hollywood was doing. You know, yeah, the news source was limited, but it was still out there. But at the same time, it's not like it is today. But nowadays, it's different. You know, you got to start somewhere. So
Right.
and that's what they did with that, is they started somewhere, and there was at least, and I'm not talking about backstage people. There must have been at least 30 people within 30. Nah, that's too small of a number. Let's say about 50 to 100 people that have seen this film within the 2 weeks of it being at the theater. And then you take those people talking to their family members about the film that went and saw it, you know. So I don't get the whole rumor part, honestly.
Okay.
But the short would final. Now this right here will get more into what we were just talking about. The short would finally go on public display in 2009 at the Museum of Modern Arts. And then in 2011, as part of the Tim Burton exhibit at LACMA. The next live action short film we got was Frankenweenie, which was released in 1984. It tells the story of a young boy who tries to revive his dog after it is ran over by a car. And I've watched this film. I like a lot of animation, but especially when it's someone by like Tim Burton. Because when you watch his films, whether live action or animation, you see how serious he is about the film, how much love and attention he gives it. And some of his greatest animated films have proof of how he was like as a person, as a kid growing up. You know, he was kind of shy. You know, he didn't really understand. He didn't really know how to communicate so well. Which that's one thing we will definitely be getting into tonight when it comes to one of my favorite movies by him. But after here's another fact for the movie. After Frankenweenie was completed, Disney fired Burton for spending the company's resources on a film that would be too dark and scary for children to see. Now, I find that very interesting. Even in the 80s, Disney really didn't have to worry about anything like that where it would scare the children, because if you watch this film now,
Hmm.
it's not really a scary film. I don't see it as a scary film. I see it as a little boy who just lost his dog. That's it. And he's trying to do everything to bring that dog back to life. He loves that dog. It's a beautiful love story. It's proof of a little boy's love for his pet dog that just sadly died in a bad accident. You know, that's all it really is. I mean, even back then, people had to be like, well, this really isn't a terrifying film. It just, I'll tell you this, for certain movies of a like mainly the 70s and 80s, I've always felt like movies like this that have like horror tendencies don't really seem to get as much love at that time. But then you give it 20, 30 years later, that film has a cult following. So it was so the greatest thing about the 80s is that we got some of the greatest movies and the best production design, the best set design, all that makeup, everything, special effects was awesome for most scenes. And I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with this. Uh, but the certain films of the 80s didn't really get much love, and horror style films didn't really get that much love. But it took a lot for some horror style films to get the love and attention. Nowadays, you go back and talk to people, you find a big fan base of these films, especially animation films. Animation, you can do so much with them, and you got more of a chance to put more love and attention and affection into that film than you would to a live action. And plus, I feel that for animation, there's a little bit more leeway than most, and you see it today in TV shows. Look at The Simpsons, 30 years. Look at South Park, that's what, 15, 20 years, or 30 years, six, I don't know. These shows have stood the test of time and proven why animation is a lot easier and more fun to be a part of than live action stuff. Animation is the best for me,
So,
in my opinion, and that's saying a lot.
so I have a question on that. Why are they turning so many animated movies into live action movies then?
They're trying to come up with somewhat of original idea. Obviously, as we all know, there's no such thing as original idea. It's a, you're scrapping an idea and just putting your own twist on it. Hollywood has no idea what to do. They have no original idea. They're not thinking of, oh, let's go back 60 years ago and take something, or 70 years ago. No, they're taking an already familiar character and banking on that character and putting it in live action form because they're like, oh, wow, Little Mermaid, we got $50 billion on a $10 fucking budget. No, it ain't gonna work like that. It's it's the issue is that a lot of people don't seem to understand is we know that there's no original idea, but Hollywood's not even trying. And it's even worse now with everything going on with the strike.
Hmm.
So right now, streaming services just to I don't want to get too off topic, but I do want to say this: streaming services taking a big hit right now. Obviously, the actors are too, but when it comes to streaming services, they're taking a big hit. We don't have. I'm trying to word this correctly. So with this strike going on, Netflix, Disney, apps like Netflix and all them don't have the resources to put out shows. So what they're forced to do is reruns and stuff like that. Old TV shows from the vault, pretty much. So this Hollywood strike is affecting a lot right now, and that not to get off topic, but that's why they're sticking with live action more. They're banking on these regular, not regular, but regular characters like Little Mermaid and putting them in live action form. And nowadays, with how they're and this might get political, but I'll try not to. But with the way the world is right now, it's a different environment than it was 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Hollywood's not the same like they used to be. And the thing is, Hollywood is yeah. I'm sorry, not to get off
All right,
topic, guys.
let's get back on track there. I'm sorry for straying you.
No, that's okay. I enjoyed that question. Here's a fact. Oh wait, yep, read that about the children not being able to see the movie because it was too scary, I guess. Now this one really bothers me having to read. Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, may he rest in peace, had seen Frankenweenie and chose Burton to direct the cinematic spin-off of his popular character Pee Wee Herman and Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Now, the budget was $8 million and grossed more than $40 million at the North American box office, just here in the States, which is friggin' crazy, and that's amazing. Um, Here's another fact: Burton is a fan of the eccentric musical group Owango Bango. I don't know if I said that right. And asked songwriter Danny Elfman to provide music for the movie. With the passing of Paul Rubens on July 30th of this year, Burton posted a photo on Instagram of himself on the set of Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Ah, with the caption, "I'll never forget how Paul helped me at the beginning of my career. It would not it would not have happened without his support. He was a great artist. I'll miss him." Burton was only 25 when he directed the movie and had no experience as a feature film director, so he can thank Pee Wee for giving Burton a chance. Jesus
Would
Christ.
you say? Would you say that was his make or break moment? That's what catapulted him
Yes.
into what he became.
Yes, definitely. Without Paul Rubens, if Paul Rubens didn't see that film, his whole career would have been different. It might have not have happened. We probably wouldn't even have this conversation. And this film was so fantastic. In my opinion, as a fan of Pee Wee Herman, um, that was definitely a make or break for Tim Burton. That
I
shit
will
got me
say,
choked up. Oh,
when I was younger, I used to watch Pee Wee Herman all the time.
the show was awesome. Let me tell you, being able to watch the reruns, it was fantastic. And then when the movie came out, oh, he was so awesome in that. He was amazing. And let me tell you, three of the biggest minds that you that we're gonna be hearing tonight, besides Tim Burton, the other two is Danny Elfman and Johnny Depp. Those are the two biggest names that we will be hearing a lot of throughout tonight's episode. And rest in peace, Paul Rubens. After directing episodes for the revitalized version of the 50s and 60s anthology horror series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, Burton directed his next big project. This is one of my favorite films, Beetlejuice, which was
Yeah,
released in 1988. I want to ask you something, Scouts. What was your take on Beetlejuice? What you enjoy most about it?
everything, just the craziness of it, all the different things that happened, how it just like went back and forth. It made you, it suspended belief of that was the underworld, like that's where you would go when you die. Like it just was so cool with everything they did.
The way Tim Now, one of my favorite scenes in the film is the very end. I enjoyed that with the shrunken head. I love that scene. I thought that was awesome. I think the way the scene goes is he steals the guy's number. The shrunken
Yeah,
head pours the
he
dust.
has he has a number about this long. The guy next to him has the
Yep.
number 4. Oh, I'm
He's
next.
like,
He
oh
takes the
there,
number,
look over there.
and then the guy just reaches over, sprinkles some dust on him, and his head goes from the big head that he is, because Michael Keaton has a big head, down to this little itty bitty thing. It's like a nut, like a pit from like a peach.
Yes. I love that. I'll tell you this, watching Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice was amazing. And we got to see him team up with Burton a few times.
Michael Keaton doesn't get
But with
enough
it,
credit for everything he did.
no, he don't. And I don't want to get too much into this because it's coming up, but it's amazing what type of reception he got when he played Batman. That right
Hmm.
there was very interesting for me. That I enjoyed. Released in 1988, is a supernatural comedy about a young couple forced to cope with life after death and the family of pretentious yuppies who invade their New England home. The film grossed $80 million on a relatively low budget and won an Academy Award for Best Makeup. Here's another great fact for this film. It was converted into a cartoon with the same name, with Burton playing a role as executive producer that ran on ABC and later Fox. Now, I got the TV show on DVD and I watch it regularly on a basis. And I love the movie so much, but the TV show is just as fantastic as the movie. Now, with the live action, you get to see a lot of great stuff, and there's some interesting stuff. But the TV show, with the amount of love that Beetlejuice gets, I feel like the TV show is second to last because I get it. The live action is really great, but the animated show is just as amazing and it's so fun to watch. If you guys haven't seen the TV show, just look up clips on YouTube or anywhere on Google. You can find it. I got my copy at Walmart for like $40. So I was like, ching, I'm paying that much. Yes, I am. Scouts, what you thought of? Did you watch the TV show?
I don't remember ever watching the TV show. Um, but the movie was always one of my favorite movies. Like I can still watch that to this day anytime I see it on TV. Like if it's on and I'm scrolling and it's on my screen, it stays on. It's one of those movies that I don't will not change the channel.
It's for me one of those movies where if it's so I don't really like watching movies where it's like 10 minutes in I want to restart it. Beetlejuice for me is one of those movies where I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna sit right here and check this out. I love this movie, and then I'm gonna go back and restart it from the beginning just to watch it because it's that interesting. Michael Keaton does a hell of a job. He's friggin' awesome. He really doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Burton's
I'm
ability to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
some of these movies you have on a list, I never knew that they were Tim Burton's.
There's some movies that when we were looking this up, I was like, he has a part in that. He's a producer on this. He directed that. That was his film. So it was very. I thought I knew a good amount of his films that he's done. No, there's some films that he's done, he's a part of where it's like I never knew that.
Hmm.
But and some of these films were when I was a kid, and this was before I truly understood who Tim Burton was and how special he actually meant to a lot of people. Because I watched a lot of his films growing up, I just never knew the person. I never understood what a director was, producer, and all that. I never understood any of that as a kid. So now when I go back into this, it's bringing up that nostalgia vibe to it, where it's like and I just got done watching three of his movies. Last night I watched Sleepy Hollow, um, watching Mars Attacks,
That's one of
and
my
I
favorite
forget
movies.
the dude. That movie is so awesome, and we will
That's what I'm
definitely
saying. Like
get to that one tonight.
that was one of the ones like that. When I saw your list, I was like, I did not realize that he did that. Like I didn't realize he was the producer on that one.
Yeah, when I found that out, I was very shocked. Burton's ability to produce hits with low budgets really impressed studio executives, and he received his first big budget film titled Batman. Now, here's a before we get going on this one, here's a fact. The production was plagued with problems. Burton repeatedly clashed with the film's producers, but the most notable debacle involving casting. Burton chose to cast Michael Keaton as Batman, despite Keaton's average physique and experience with the action films and reputation as a comic actor. Burton Burton had considered it ridiculous to cast a bulk up ultra masculine man as Batman, insisting that Batman should be an ordinary man who's dressed up in an elaborate bat costume to frighten criminals. With the film opened in June of 1989, it was backed by the biggest marketing and merchandise campaign in the film history at that time and became one of the biggest box office hits of all time, grossing over $250 million in the U.S. and over $400 million worldwide. The success of the film helped establish Burton as a profitable director, and it proved to be a huge influence on future superhero films. Burton claimed that the graphic novel Batman: The Killing Joke, which was released on which was released in March of 1988, was a major influence on his film adaptation on Batman. Now, before we go on, I'll tell you this: watching this film, I've watched a I've watched a good amount of information on it, whether it was through YouTube or anything, and it's just very interesting knowing that. people weren't willing to take a risk on someone like Michael Keaton to play Batman. And I felt like at the time it was better to have someone bulky, bulked up, muscular to play Batman. But when you actually think of that character, for me at least, I don't really see a bulked up man for Batman. For Batman, like he was saying, someone like Michael Keaton would be perfect because then you can make the villains bulked up, like Bane.
Not
A
even that.
perfect example.
Then you have the suit that makes him look more intimidating than he actually is. Like the original Batman suit, like it was defined. Like when he put that on, he looked like a different person. This way, they really couldn't tell that it was the same guy. And then, like
Exactly.
You want Bruce Wayne to stand out differently than you do Batman. So I thought of his interpretation of it as the way that it should be.
The one thing that I enjoyed about Michael Keaton was the way he was able to portray Batman and Bruce Wayne. Now, you guys may be thinking, well, they're one and the same. Technically, yeah, they are, but they're also two different sides of the coin. You got Bruce Wayne on one side, the eccentric millionaire that is conflicted with everything going on in his past life with the death of his parents. What was it, 15, 20 years later? He's still dealing with the loss of his parents while trying to live a normal life. But as a millionaire like Bruce Wayne, I mean, I felt that his interpretation as Bruce Wayne was more realistic with what he was trying to give us as Batman. He was truly trying to encounter the Dark Knight as much as possible, and with his side of Bruce Wayne and Batman was very awesome. You could see the pain in his face that he's still dealing with. You see that he's trying to hide who he really is, which is the Dark Knight Batman. He's not trying to give that out. He's very close because of everything that went on in his life,
Mhm.
and now trying to be the savior of Gotham. I mean, it's very interesting take on the Batman Bruce Wayne character. For me, at least, I thought so. What are your thoughts?
I feel he was probably one of the best Batmans overall out of the entire series, all the new ones that came out. He still, to me, was one of the best to be able to portray both of them in the right light.
Agreed. For me, I'll say this. I feel like I'm gonna be the minority when I say this, but Robert Pattinson was definitely number two for Bruce Wayne and Batman. Just kind of similar to how Michael Keaton was, just more of a darker tone for Bruce Wayne, whereas it's pretty similar to what he was trying to do for Bruce Wayne, but with Batman. Dark tone. And if you watch that movie through and through, you see the tone of the movie. It matches how Batman should be, at least for the idea of what the director and everybody else was trying to give us for that film. So I felt Robert Pattinson is, in my opinion, number two. If we're gonna put Keaton up there, agreed, but Pattinson also deserves credit because I felt he did a wonderful job as both characters, Batman and Bruce Wayne. Now, now, in 1990, Burton created a unique drawing that gave screenwriter Caroline Thompson inspiration to write the script for Edward Scissorhands. Burton directed the movie with Winona Ryder and Johnny Depp. Depp was cast in the title role of Edward, who was the creation of an eccentric and old-fashioned inventor. Edward looked human but was left with scissors in the place of his hands due to the untimely death of his creator. Now, this right here is a very interesting fact. The person that played the inventor was Vincent Price, which sadly, this was one of his last on screen appearances. Edward Scissorhands is considered one of Burton's best movies by some critics. Burton has stated that this is his most personal and meaningful film because it is a representation of him not being able to communicate effectively with others as a teenager. And I this right here is where I relate to him. I understand him because as a going through high school for me, I was shy and quiet. I was never a talker. Didn't really wasn't comfortable in a big group of setting. Didn't know how to speak to a lot of people. So that's where I relate to Tim Burton and the Scissorhand character. And let me tell you, still one of his best characters. Um, would you agree, Scouts?
So I was reading up on this a little bit. Did you know that the reason he did this film was because of the success of Batman? They told him he could do any film he wanted.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so because of the success of Batman, they allowed him to direct any type of film he wanted, and that's how Edward Scissorhands came about.
I didn't know that. See, that's what's great about being here on Movie Madness is no matter who's on the side with me, we got great information. You got information that I didn't find. I never knew that. I didn't find that out. Thank you, Scouts.
Um, I love the character Edward Scissorhands. This movie is just so good. It was unique to its time. It was an easy watch, and if you enjoyed Johnny Depp, go see him before he became what he's become. This will show you what he can truly do as an actor.
I actually this was the movie I just got done watching before Mars Attacks, right? And before we get going, I want to say this: the film kind of feels like a dream. It's Edward Scissorhands playing out a dream because he's never got to see what it was like being in town because he's been stuck in that mansion since he was created. So this is his dream world where he's finally leaving the mansion and he's coming down, and this woman ends up picking him up, bringing him to her family, and helping him understand life. If you notice how wacky the film is with the, and I don't necessarily want to say wacky, outlandish, I guess you could say probably, with how perfect that world is. When he leaves the mansion, it's all dark and dingy. Then he leaves the mansion. It's all a colorful world, green grass as far as the eye can see. Each house is a different color: blue, pink, yellow, all this, and different color cars. It's so bright, So that that's that's my takeaway from this film is that this isn't reality. This is Edward Scissorhands dreaming of all this because he's finally able to see what real life is like. But in reality, he's still up there, because he's afraid to leave his mansion. That's just my thought when I was watching the film. Edward Scissorhands is considered one of Burton's best movies by some critics. Burton has stated that this is his. Yep. Okay, so I already went over that. Actually, with Scalz, what you talked about, I think we actually got it going on here in the notes about what you said about him being able to have full control. With the success of Batman, Burton agreed to. Oh wait, never mind. This is about the sequel, actually. With the success of Batman, Burton agreed to direct the sequel for Warner Brothers on the condition that he would be granted total control for Batman Returns.
Oh,
Batman
there you go.
Returns, Docker. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying there you go.
Batman Returns, darker and considerably more personal than Batman. Concerns were raised that the film was too scary of children for children. Audiences were more uncomfortable at the film's overt sexuality. Now here's a fact. Burton made many changes to the penguin, which would even be applied to the character in both comics and TV. In the comics, Penguin was an ordinary man. Burton created a freak of nature, resembling a penguin with webbed flipper-like fingers, a hooked beak-like nose, and a penguin-like body. Batman Returns was released in 1992 and it grossed $282.8 million dollars worldwide, Jesus, making it a financial success. With schedule constraints on Batman Returns, Burton, Burton produced but did not direct The Nightmare Before Christmas for Disney. Fact: The Nightmare Before Christmas was originally meant to be a children's book, which this movie was fantastic either way. Even if it was a book, uh, count me in. The movie was directed by Henry Selick and written by Carolyn Thompson, based on Burton's original story world, and characters. The film received positive reviews for the stop motion animation, musical score, and original storyline. It was a modest box office success, grossing $50 million. Because of the nature of the film, it was not produced under Disney's name, but rather the Disney owned Touchstone Pictures. Fun fact: over 100 people worked on this motion picture just to create the characters, and it's 3 years of work to produce the film. Very interesting. I never knew it took 3 years to make. But knowing that it's stop motion, if anyone knows what that is, from the best way I can explain it is you got the clay characters and you're moving them inch by inch and you're recording it slowly, piece by piece, and then you paste it all together, and that's stop motion. To me, that's the idea of it, at least. Um, and it's very interesting you see in all his films. In 1994, Burton produced the fantasy comedy Cabin Boy. Burton was originally supposed to direct the film, but handed the directing responsibility to Adam Resnick once he was offered Edward. Edward was an Edward was of a much smaller scale, depicting the life of infamous director Ed Wood. The
Prince, I'll be
film
right
is
back.
an
I'll go grab
homage.
some ice real quick.
Okay. The film is an homage to the low-budget science fiction and horror films of Burton's childhood and handles its comical protagonist and his motley band of collaborators with surprising fondness and sensitivity. Fact: while it was a commercial failure at the time of its release in '94, Edward became a cult classic as well and was well received by critics. This film I never seen. I've seen like bits and pieces of it. I've seen trailers for it, and it actually looks very interesting. I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp also played in that film. Not 100% sure on that, but it actually looks like it's really fun to watch. Despite Burton's intention to still lead the Batman franchise, Warner Brothers considered Batman Returns too dark and unsafe for children. Bullshit. It was decided that Joel Schumacher would lead the third film, while Burton would only produce it. Now, I don't have a personal issue with Joel Schumacher. I just, as a kid, as a kid I enjoyed it, but then going back and watching it, it's like, yeah, no, I not really a fan. I like the idea, and from what I understand, Robin Williams was supposed to be the Riddler for the film, but they what they did was pretty messed up. They went to Jim Carrey and said, "Hey, if you don't take this role, then Robin Williams is gonna take it." Once Jim heard that, he was like, "All right, fine." But that was their plan, is to use Robin Williams as bait, which was pretty messed up. In 1996. Oh wait, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. Fact: with the changes made by the new director, Michael Keaton resigned. In '96, Burton and Selleck reunited for the musical fantasy, and this is one of my other favorite films, James and the Giant Peach, based on the book by Roald Dahl. Once again, Burton served only as producer due to his contributions to making Mars Attacks. James and the Giant Peach is a combination of live action and stop motion footage. While the movie was a box office disappointment for Disney, the film was nominated. Oh, wait, sorry. The film was received well by critics for its story and visual aspects and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Music or Comedy Score. Despite creative squabbles during the making of Nightmare Before Christmas, Danny Elfman and Burton reunited for Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks, based on a popular science fiction trading card series. I never knew that. The film was a hybrid of the 1950s science fiction and 1970s all-star disaster films. This is a funny movie. In the middle of watching it right now, and it's just a fun and interesting game. And Scalz just missed it. He missed one of his favorite movies that we just talked about.
I didn't miss it.
I didn't miss it.
You heard it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
I
cool,
love.
cool. I didn't know that it was a trading card series. I never knew that about the film. That
I didn't know
that
that
just
either.
makes it
I didn't know that either.
that just makes it more interesting. Honestly, this is a badass film. It really is. Um, One of my favorite scenes is the dog scene where they take the heads off, put the dog's head on the woman's body, puts
Yes.
the woman's head in a glass fish tank type thing. And the scene with Byron when he's fighting the aliens, that was awesome. um the next film was released late in 1999, and it's titled Sleepy Hollow. It has a supernatural setting and stars Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane, a detective with an interest in forensic science. Rather than rather than the school teacher of Washington, Irvin's original tale. With Sleepy Hollow, Burton paid homage to the horror films of the English company Hammer Films. Fact: Christopher Lee's one of Hammer's stars was given a cameo role. And when you watch this film, I just recently saw it last night. Eh, the countryside. Have you seen Sleepy Hollow?
Not in a long time.
Not in a long time.
Okay, there's a scene where Johnny Depp arrives to the town, and you see the camera just looking at the village, and you see how dark it is and cloudy, and the trees have no leaves on it, and there's like maybe 6 to 10 buildings, 10 houses around or something like that, and it's just so dark. And the feeling that you get from that, for me at least, I'm like, This is the first time I've seen this film in a very long time. So I forgot how great that scene was and what it made me feel like. I'm like, that's a town or country, whatever you want to call it, is where I want to live. I want to live somewhere like that, like off the grid type of stuff. Mostly well received by critics, and with a special mention to Elfman's gothic score, the film has grossed 207 million worldwide. Sleepy Hollow was also a turning point for Burton. Burton changed radically in style for his next project, leaving the haunted forest and colorful outcast behind to go on to direct Planet of the Apes, which came out in 2000. Now, this Tim Burton he's one of the few that has made a lot of great movies where it's like even if that film is bad, there's something in that film that someone's gonna find a love for and just cherish it. But Tim Burton, in my opinion, I don't think truly really has made a bad film. And
I
so
don't think so
with two,
either.
I don't think so either.
and you've been a fan of him for a long time, also, I assume, right, Scouts?
Yes, I have.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And 2000, Planet of the Apes was a commercial success, grossing $68 million dollars in its first opening week, and eventually earned 180 in North America and 362 million worldwide. Fun fact, the film received mixed reviews and is widely considered inferior to the first adaptation of the novel, which I never read the novel. I kind of knew about the novel somewhat, but never really paid attention. I'm more of a movie guy, but with literature, there's endless possibilities that you can do compared to directing a movie, especially if the movie is backed by a major company like Warner Brothers. Now, let's say you have a $60 billion budget for a movie. That's good because you got a lot of money to work with, but at the same time, you got a lot of restraints. Now, if you were the type of director to have 2 to 3 million, maybe five, maybe $10 million, you don't have that much to answer to because you don't have a major company that has rules that you have to follow. Now, if you watch a previous episode we did on Eli Roth, you'll see that he's done a lot of films on a very small budget, $2.5 million for some of his movies, and the reason is because there's no restraints. He'd rather have that type of budget for a movie than to go to Warner Brothers and get $60 billion because it would be easier for him to direct the film with only $2.5 million. And it's a pain in the ass because you gotta be careful with how you pay production. You gotta pay the cast and crew. You gotta take care of the set design. But you are not limited to you're not limited to what a company says. Like you have no one to answer to. You are your own boss. This is why a lot of horror movies that are in a small budget range are even better than those big budget films. That, in my opinion. Scalz, would you agree?
Yeah, because normally they
Yeah, because
focus
normally
on it
they
more.
focus on it more.
Hmm. And they care more about the money that's coming in and out. The film received mixed reviews and is widely considered inferior to the first adaptation of the novel. In 2003, Burton directed Big Fish, based on the novel Big Fish, a novel of mythic proportions by Daniel Wallace. Big Fish is a film about a father telling the story of his life to his son using exaggeration and color. It received 4 Golden Globe nominations as well as an Academy Award nomination for, of course, Danny Elfman's score. Now, this next film that we're about to talk about, I didn't really care for. and it really bothers me because I hate saying that when it comes to Tim Burton, but it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now, I will say this: I do like the fact that it stayed true to its source material. I just, I was more of a fan of the original. Um, what do you think, Scouts?
I'm a fan of the original, but
I'm a
my
fan of
daughter
the
loves this
original, but
one
my
more.
daughter loves this one more.
I watched both versions with my family, and my son likes this one. It's more up his alley, and I will say it. I enjoy it because of what Johnny Depp was able to give us. Again, um, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is an adaptation of the book of the same name by Roald Dahl. The version takes a more faithful approach to the source material than the 1971 adaptation. Although some liberties were taken, such as adding Wonka's issues with his father. The movie was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Costume Design. The film made over $207 million, drastically. His next film is hold on, guys. Sorry, I'm technical issues. His next film was Corpse Bride, which was released in 2005, uh, which was Burton's first full-length stop-motion film as director. Fact: the movie, I never knew this about this film, but the movie is based on a 17th century Jewish folk tale titled The Finger. It's kind of interesting when you say that because you're thinking of a different finger.
Yep.
The, the film is set in fictional Victorian era village in England. Victor and Victoria prepare for their arranged marriage. Although the two are initially nervous, they become smitten and fall in love instantly when they meet. It became a critical and commercial success, grossing 118.1 million worldwide against a $40 million budget. And $40 million, that's a good chunk of change to have for a film like this. Now, his next film. Oh, I. He did a music video in 2006 for the band The Killers. Burton went on to also direct a second music video for The Killers, Here With Me, starring Winona Ryder, which was released in 2012. Now, this next film. Now, this next film we're going to be talking about is a favorite of mine and my wife's. It's another Johnny Depp classic, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Based on the 1979 Broadway musical, was released on December 21st, 2007. This film involves the evil judge Turpin, who has lust for the beautiful wife of a London barber, and he ends up transporting him to Australia for a crime that he didn't commit, returning after 15 years and calling himself Sweeney Todd. The now madman vows revenge, applying his razor to unlucky customers and shuttling the bodies down to Mrs. Lovett, who uses them in her meat pie shop. Though many fall to his blade, he will not be satisfied until he slits Turpin's throat. The film grossed $153 million worldwide. Fun fact: Burton's work on Sweeney Todd won the National Board of Review Awards for Best Director and won an Academy Award for Best Art Direction. This film was such a beautiful take on a madman, on a great story of this. And what's great about this is another name that is played in a lot of these films is the character of Miss Lovett. The person that plays Miss Lovett is actually Tim Burton's wife. I know her name, but I can't pronounce her last name. Her first name is Helen. Helen
Helena
Bottom
Bonham
Feeder.
Carter.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know why I have a hard time with that name. Thank you, Scalz. But that's his wife. And listen, a lot of horror fans, a lot of fans of this type of genre want to talk about big names. Tim Burton and his wife, two names that should also be represented with that highlight because they are fantastic working together. Honestly, they're better than Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon. Just saying. Just saying. Don't yell at me. Barton's work on Sweeney Todd. Oh, wait, yep. In 2005, filmmaker Shane Aker released his short film titled Nine, a story about a sentient ragdoll living in a post-apocalyptic world who tries to stop machines from destroying the rest of his 8 fellow ragdolls. The film won numerous awards and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. After seeing this short film, Tim Burton showed interest in producing a feature-length adaptation of the film. Directed by Aker, the full-length film was produced by Burton, written by Aker and Pamela Petlier. I don't know if I said that name right. But in 2009, Burton appeared at the Comic-Con in San Diego, California to promote both Nine and Alice in Wonderland. Woo! Oh my God, this is a whirlwind of headsphere. Yeah, buddy. Burton's version of Alice in Wonderland is set 13 years after the original Lewis Carroll tales. The original start date for filming was May 2008. The film was originally set to be released in 2009, but was pushed to March 5th, 2010. Fun fact: despite mixed reviews, the film was a commercial success, grossing $1 billion worldwide, making it the highest grossing film of Burton's career. Burton produced the film sequel, Alice Through the Looking Glass, which came out 2016, which was directed by James Bobbin. Yeah, buddy. Ooh, oof. Ooh. Holy shit, $1 billion. Christ. But, oof. The next film was released May 11, 2012, titled Dark Shadows. This film also stars Jonathan Depp. Yeah, buddy. Woohoo. It's a dark fantasy film on the Gothic TV soap opera of the same name. It performed poorly at the United States box office, but did well in foreign markets. Let me tell you this. Critics suck sometimes. They suck the life out of movies because this movie was friggin' awesome. Burton co-produced Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. Now listen, let me tell you, when this movie, Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire, first came out, I thought it was silly. I thought it was stupid. But I watched it, and let me tell you, you gotta watch it. This movie is awesome. It involves vampires. It involves Abraham Lincoln, a professional wrestler, which had over 300 matches, and only lost one of them. He only lost one match out of 314 matches. Yeah, buddy. Woo! Whew. Hold on. Settle down. Jesus Christ. The film was released on June 22nd, 2012, and was based on a novel by screenwriter and novelist Seth Graham Smith. The film performed poorly at the box office. Jesus Christ, people suck. Burton then remade his 1984 short film Frankenweenie Jesus Christ, Frankenweenie as a feature-length stop-motion film distributed by Walt Disney Pictures. Burton has said that the film is based on a memory that I had when I was growing up and with my relationship with the dog that I had. The film was released on October 5th, 25th, Jesus Christ, 2020. October 5th, 2012. The next film was, let's see if I can pronounce this shit. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is a 2016 fantasy film directed by Burton and written by James Goldman, based on the 2011 novel by Ransom Riggs. The film premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas, on September 25th, 2016, and was
Theatrically.
thank you, released in the United States on September 30th, 2016, by 20th Century Fox. It received mixed to positive reviews, with praise for Burton's direction and visual atmosphere, but criticism for its plot. It was a box office success, grossing $296.5 million, fucking sideways, Jesus Christ, worldwide, against a production budget of $110 million.
So it almost tripled.
That's fucking insane, man. But yeah, it got mixed to positive reviews. Let me tell you, I feel like some of these critics just shit on movies before they may watch these films, but they don't sit down. Now, you can sit down and watch a film, or you can sit down and watch a film. What I mean is, if you're sitting down and watch a film, you're watching like, oh shit, that movie's awesome. Oh, I love this scene. I didn't like this scene. I like that character. I didn't like that character. But then you can sit down and watch a film by breaking every piece down, character by character, scene by scene. Like, oh, this is what this represents, right? You know what I mean? So there's two different ways of watching a film. Depending on the film that I watch, I either break it down as a movie fan, or I just sit down and watch it as a movie fan. So that's what I do depending on the film. Burton also directed a live-action adaptation of the Disney animated film Dumbo, which was released March 29th, 2019. The film grossed $353 million worldwide against a $170 million budget, and combined production and advertising costs of $300 million. Ultimately losing money. Damn. Yeah. There was issues. I didn't get much facts on this one, but I was seeing videos, and Tim Burton was kind of upset by Disney with this film, from what I understand. In February of 2021, it was announced that Burton would be directing and producing Wednesday, a series for Netflix based on the character from the Addams Family. Fun fact, this marked Burton's first foray into directing television since the 1980s. He helmed 4 episodes in the first season, which began production in September 2021 for a November 22 release. The show was released to critical acclaim. Let's see. In October 2022, Burton announced that he will probably never work with Disney again. Now, this is going back to the Dumbo film. Due to his distinctive style and working approach, not matching with what Disney is currently looking for. With its focus on Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, he stated that it's gotten to be very very oh my god. Very can Jesus Christ, can I there's less room for different types of Jesus Christ. I gotta stop putting big words into this shit.
You're
Oh
the
my
one that writes
god.
this for
You're the one that
yourself.
writes this.
I do, I know, but I'm trying to be professional and I thought I could handle it, but I can't. Oh my god.
It's all right, Prince.
It's all right.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Since 1990, Burton had been considering to make Beetlejuice 2. In July of 2012, Burton was announced to be working with Seth Grahame-Smith on such a project. In October of 2017, Deadline Hollywood reported that Mike was hired to write the script. Oh my god. In time for the film's 30th anniversary. In April 2019, Warner Brothers stated the sequel had been shelved. In February 2022, however, the sequel was announced again, this time produced by Brad Pitt Studio Plan B. Why you gotta call it Plan B? Oh my god. Plan B Entertainment alongside Warner Brothers. Though Burton initially said that he wasn't involved, he later retracted himself and said the sequel was officially confirmed to start shooting in London of May 10, 2023. Fuck yeah, buddy. For a release date on September 6, 2024, with Keaton and Ryder reprising their roles. Fuck yeah, buddy! Woo! Alongside Ortega and Justin Theroux joining the cast. Fuck yes. Oh my god. Sorry, guys. I can't. I need this film. This film needs that. Hollywood needs to. I know this is gonna be out of the realm of possibilities, but Hollywood, I hope you're watching this. Please cut out the bullshit. Take care of your actors. Stop trying to get them. Stop trying to get them to be scanned in for AI. AI can't do nothing that these actors can give us. They can't experience raw emotion. Stop. Jesus. The only time AI should be involved is during a movie like iRobot or anything else like that. Other than that, no AI. Now cut out the bullshit, get back to work, allow these actors back to work, and continue putting out shows. Right now, we got nothing. We got little things to fall back on, thank God, because some of this stuff was already done before the strike happened. Now, the strike started in May, and it's still going on. May of this past year, and it's still going on. Hollywood, please fix your shit. And before we end this, Scalz, I want something from you. I want, if you're able to, I want you to give me your top five Tim Burton films.
Top 5 Tim Burton films.
Top 5 Tim Burton films. Okay.
So I would have Batman,
Mm-hmm.
Mars Attacks, Edward
Mars
Scissorhands,
Attacks, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice,
and Nightmare Before Christmas.
Very great list. And before I give my list, right, I was thinking really hard on this list. And you know what I've noticed is almost every movie on my list involves Johnny Depp. I didn't realize that. I was like, oh, okay, shit. Now, starting off with number 5, one of my personal favorites, which we talked about, is Dark Shadows. Number 4, Edward Scissorhand. Number 3, Sleepy Hollow. And the reason why I picked Sleepy Hollow is because I felt Johnny Depp's role as a dark and mysterious, not mysterious, but with with him being into the forensic science stuff. I've always enjoyed that type of stuff. So I respect Johnny Depp for what he was able to give us on all these movies. My number 2 film is one of the best animated films, in my opinion, Corpse Bride. Now, we learned tonight that that was actually based on a fairy tale, and I never knew that. And that was very interesting. But my number 1 film is one of the greatest animation films with the best amazing score by one of the greatest composers, Danny Elfman, and that is The Nightmare Before Christmas. This movie is a classic. This is one of those films where you can take your kids to watch. They can sit there and enjoy what you got to enjoy as a child. They'll be able to experience what you got to experience, and they'll have so much fun watching this film. Listen, all these films that we talked about tonight deserve a lot of life, and they mean a lot to a lot of people. Tim Burton is one of the most beautiful minds. Now, before we get going, Scalz, please tell us where we can find you.
You could find me here on Off
You
the
could
Top,
find me here on Off the
on
Top,
Twitch and YouTube,
on
as
Twitch
well
and YouTube, as well
Instagram,
as
TikTok,
Instagram,
Twitter, Off the
TikTok,
Top Media
Twitter, Off the Top Media underscore.
And you can find me on TikTok at movie_madness. You can hit me up on Arkham Prince 420 for Instagram and Arkham Prince 88 on Snapchat. Hit me up, give me a follow, ask me questions, whatever you want. And just let's get to know more films. Let's hit me up with your top 5 Tim Burton. Matter of fact, hit me up with any of your top 5 films. But before we go, I want to tell you, next week's episode is a very great episode. It's gonna be on the wonderful, most awesome type of creatures around, zombies, which will then fall into the week after that, another great topic, which George A. Romero. So we got zombies and George A. Romero coming up. Check it out. But until next time, always remember, stay weird. And don't forget, follow Off the Top Media on Twitch and download them in the Discord and check them out. Yeah, buddy. Stay weird. Till next time.